Hello and welcome back to another thing. I know technically I'm doing a tier list video after a tier list video, but it's been a long time since I've recorded, okay? And, I was gonna do this anyway.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm here with Amoeba. Or
That's
however
me.
you want to be addressed. I'm
I
assuming
am an
that's
amoeba.
fine. Yeah, he's been on a few other videos as well. You probably have heard him if you've seen things. But anyway, gonna be rating D&D subclasses, and we're not gonna do them all in one video. So this one's probably gonna be the shortest one because we're doing Artificer. I mean, technically, Bloodhunter could be shorter, but we're not doing it. So, starting us off, Alchemist Artificer. An alchemist is an expert at combining reagents to produce mystical effects. Alchemists use their creations to give life and leech it away. Alchemy is the oldest artificer traditions, and versatility has long been valued during times of war and peace. Yeah. So, just, right off the bat, like, how do you feel about, like, playing an alchemist artificer?
I think Alchemist is a weird one. They get some unique, interesting features that I think are fun. But they're sort of, I think it's overall kind of a clunky subclass, and the features seem a little disparate and disconnected in their fantasy.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little weak, and it, like, doesn't totally flow in with anything else the Artificer's trying to do super well.
Yeah. The stuff because they get the elixirs, which are fun. They're sort of a little wiggly, but then you can guarantee ones later.
Yeah, they're cool.
Which that's kind of a fun thing, especially getting it at 3 is pretty strong.
I definitely think the fantasy is definitely high here. Like, I feel like there's certainly, like, room to want to play an Alchemist Artificer, but mechanically it's just kind of lacking. And it doesn't help that Alchemist is an Artificer subclass either, because Artificers are a little weak as well. But they're fun, they're cool, they're definitely flavorful. I don't know. Just to, like, talk about some of the things that they can do. Yeah, you were saying they can make potions. And an Alchemist Artificer's potions, at first, right? It's an experimental elixir. And it's a D6, right?
Yeah, at the beginning of the day, essentially at the beginning of the day, you make a certain number of them, and they're random as to what they are. But then as an action, you can make one for a spell slot, and you get to pick when you make it as a spell slot. So,
which would be nice, but Artificers don't have that many spell slots, and, like, this is kind of your bread and butter.
I mean, I think it works out. Artificer really does sort of gain its power from having many individual sort of connecting strengths. So their power is sort of...
They're good magic item guys.
They're good at a lot of things, and they sort of power up each of those things very slowly, but each of the things they get is pretty useful. I like Alchemist. I've tried to play it a couple times, and it hasn't worked out, so unfortunately I haven't gotten the chance. But I don't know. I think Alchemist has probably the most flavor out of any Artificer.
I would argue that Battlesmith is close.
Yeah, I like Battlesmith. But
Because, like, I feel like making a robot that, like, helps you is pretty peak Artificer fantasy.
I mean, I'll talk about Battlesmith later. I have mixed feelings of
But,
that.
yeah, I do like the idea of Alchemist, but it just doesn't, like, work mechanically. Also, for this tier list, I have decided that instead of just rating, like, Artificer subclasses specifically for Artificer, right? Because if it was just Artificer, it could be something like this. Also, this is not representative, but, you know, and have it be somewhat reasonable. But then I would be like, oh, Battlesmith is as good of a subclass as, let's say, Giant Barbarian, which I think is also really good. So, instead of doing that, I'm gonna rate them based on how I feel about the Artificer compared to other classes. So, some classes won't have any S-tier subclasses. Probably. I assume that's the case. But, we'll see.
I want to put it in Alchemist in B.
I don't know.
I like it.
Here, let me do this. Let me get rid of E, because E tier is a cringe tier in my opinion.
Excellent.
I don't know. Like, I really like the idea of an Alchemist Artificer. I just wish it just did a bit more. I don't know. Especially because, like, I love the fantasy, but I almost feel like even though Wizards is determined to ignore that the Artificer class exists, the, like, design space for, like, an Alchemist class is kind of being taken up by it as well. Which,
I guess. But you can just craft things. Also, Artificers are good at crafting things, which means Alchemist is better at just making potions.
yeah. I don't know. For me, though, like, if I'm rating it against everything in the game, I don't know, man. I don't think I can put Alchemist that high.
Where do you want to put it?
Probably C. Because even though it's
fair.
weak and kind of clunky, I'd still want to play one.
I really want to play one.
So I think it's good enough. For sure. I don't think it, like, is a failure, necessarily.
I mean, I think Artificer has a better class than you think Artificer is. So.
I don't think Artificers are bad. I just think they're a little lacking. But, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? Like, some things can just be a little weaker sometimes. Because they have strengths in other avenues.
I think this is reasonable.
The Armor Artificer is up next. Hold on, let me get that excerpt pulled up. An Armor Artificer is an artificer who specializes in armor to function almost like a second skin. The armor is enhanced to hone the artificer's magic, unleash potent attacks, and generate formidable defense. The artificer bonds with this armor, becoming one with it, even as they experiment with it and refine its magical capabilities. In my opinion, this might be a bad opinion, but in my opinion, I think out of the Artificer fantasies, this one is the weakest. Because, like, I mean, yeah, people saw Avengers, people like Iron Man, but that doesn't mean that, like, Iron Man and, like, fantasy elf game works for me.
I kind of agree. It's alright. I think it's a little too... Everything folds in a little too nicely for armor, I think. Because they get... Normally you need to invest in strength to get access to heavy armor, and this sort of sidesteps that.
Yeah.
You need a then some classes, you know, you either get the ranged or the melee thing, and you can sort of access both through this. Generally, you need to, if you want to be a caster that hits something, you most often need to spec between, you need to be like dex and your casting thing, and this sort of sidesteps that. Sort of everything sort of that you want to do folds into int really, really hard.
Yeah, it makes you very sad, a single ability to score dependent, which is good for taking feats. I definitely can't, like, bash the fact that it is probably the best multi-class subclass for the Artificer.
Yeah, probably.
Probably the strongest as well. Battlesmith is close, but it definitely does a lot for the class that makes it, you know, good. Makes Artificers pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. It's just there's not really, if you are armor, you are an armor, and there really isn't any flexibility there, really. You're not picking a weapon. I mean, you're picking your spells, but, like, you're not...
Yeah, and I mean, you get extra armor. Attack as a thing.
You aren't thinking about whether or not you're taking heavy armor, medium armor, or light armor, which most martials, even if they have proficiencies, there's a thought to be had there, especially like medium armor to heavy armor. You aren't picking a weapon.
Yeah, and I mean, even
kind of
if you're like a 20 dex fighter, maybe you'll even go like studded leather, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a possibility.
And I mean, there are some cool stuff you can do. I mean, there's a lot of flavor.
I think it is also...
Artificer baseline has a lot of flavor as to
Artificer
sort of
baseline as well is kind of... I feel like it's kind of DM dependent on how far or like how much you get out of the class. And I mean, yeah, that's sort of true for everything. But it's like the Artificer's thing being like they can get like magic items and stuff is cool, but like if everyone has them, it's less cool. I mean, it's not necessarily less good, but it does take something away from them, especially if it's like if you're an armor artificer and you have like your magic armor and stuff, and people are getting like magic armor pieces. Just like, I don't know. I mean, you can sorta like infuse them into your armor.
I mean, you can. That's a lot of the things, is they sort of get their stuff to fold a lot of their infusions into their armor, which makes them individually much more powerful. Armor is one of the stronger classes to not actually give your infusions to your allies and sort of just use them all on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So they are a bit better in that regard.
It's also very versatile. You can swap your things whenever you take a short rest.
Yeah,
nice.
It is very versatile. I just don't. I just feel like it's too easy. They just get it too. They get everything they want for
it doesn't really feel like you're building a character when you're playing armor. It kind of just feels like you're an artificer and you get these things. It's like, it's just like an upgrade, kind of.
So, I mean, it's definitely way stronger. It's cool. What they can do is cool. I will say the like lightning bolts and the thunder gauntlets, their features are very exciting and interesting. It's a cool way to do it. The thunder gauntlets are a fun, interesting way to tank, and getting to sort of be stealthy, and the lightning launcher from the range stuff is very interesting, and the upgraded armor that you get later, it is very fun. I don't know, I'd put this in, I'd probably B. This one probably deserves to be in B.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it'd probably be the A tier artificer class. But I I just don't think it's that interesting is the problem. Like, mechanically, it's definitely like the A tier Artificer class, but it's just like...
I think armor is easily the strongest Artificer. There's just the fantasy is creating your exciting piece of armor, and there's just not a lot of customization there.
Yeah.
You're just kind of good. And you don't have to do a lot for it. You just need int and you're good.
Yeah.
There was a way to sort of lean into some other stats or diversify your armor a bit more. But it's kind of, I mean, you do pick what features, what infusions it gets, but it's kind of, you pick the good ones.
It definitely could do to be a bit more interesting. Like, I don't know. I think to add more options maybe, and more like ability score options as well.
I think there were like,
and
yeah, if there was a way
flexibility maybe, then it could make it where like, oh, you're actually like building an armor to do a thing.
Yeah. I think it would go a long way to add a way for it to be a medium armor or a light armor.
Yeah.
I think even just making it medium armor, I think would add a lot. Or if you added a reason maybe to be strength based, or to have strength. I mean, you want int, but if you had a reason to have strength as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I think it is important to have the feature that they don't need strength, because I think it would be very restrictive to say you need strength, because I think that would hinder the archetype. But if you had a reason that strength might be good as well,
sure.
I guess sort of a different way to build it would be cool.
But yeah, I mean, it does at least interact with the Artificer system a bit. At it does, like level 9, which does help. It's nice that it does that. So Battlesmiths, I like Battlesmiths. They're cool. I think Artillerist is technically first, but whatever. I did it this way. Oh well.
Battlesmith is cool. It's the only one. It's the only one I've played for a relevant amount of time. I've played with armorers and artillerists, and I haven't actually played with an alchemist, but I've built several alchemists that I've wanted to play and I haven't. But yeah. Battlesmith's the only one I've formally played. It's nice. It's fun. I have a problem with building characters. I've built a number of battlesmiths. They fold in kind of nicely, kind of like armor, where you can sort of just push a lot into int. But I think it's not quite as bad because your armor doesn't fold into it, so you do kind of need some dex. And there's your weapon. You can pick any weapon, so that sort of lends itself to a few different options as well. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool way to sort of be kind of like a fighter, someone who does damage, someone who is like meaningfully relevant with their weapon, and then you also have those sort of artificery things you can do. It feels very cool. My big problem with Artificer is you get a big part of their power is you get this Steel Defender, which is like a summon, or it's like a construct that follows you around, and it does stuff. And the other big part of it is that you can use martial weapons with int, basically.
Which is very nice when you're not an artificer.
It is very nice as an artificer as well. It's just, I feel like having the Steel Defender and being this frontliner, or this fiery type character, in my opinion, are sort of at odds with it. You can make a class, you can make a character fantasy that includes them both, but oftentimes when I've tried to build Battlesmith, I either want one or the other. Like, I want to be based around this construct that I've built, or I want to be like this frontline fighter. So I feel like I really feel like Battlesmith should be two different subclasses, and it would mean a lot more if you had a way to sort of lean into your construct and a way to lean into sort of being this fighter as two separate things. I think that would be a lot more satisfying.
Mm-hmm. I think the idea is that you like gang up on people, right? They help you fight. Like, they go up and bite things with their like metal heads.
Yeah.
And you attack them too.
I mean, it definitely works out. Like, mechanically, there isn't a problem. It works very well.
And depending on if your DM uses flanking rules, it's definitely pretty helpful in melee.
DMs not do that? There are DMs that don't play with flanking? That sounds weird.
Well, yeah, there's DMs that don't play with flanking, and there's DMs that play with, like, variant flanking as well.
What is variant flanking?
Like, it's an AC modification instead of, advantage.
Oh.
Because, there's a lot of, like, features that give you advantage, so it's like, oh, if I alter the AC, it doesn't negate your thing that gives you advantage.
I guess. That sounds strange, but...
But yeah, I like it. I think it has a really strong, like, identity. It's cool. Like, you have a little robot friend. It's not, like, super powerful. I think it's not bad. Like, I think if you just, like, pick up 3 levels of Battlesmith and then go, like, Eldritch Knight, that's pretty good. That doesn't really say a whole lot for Battlesmith, unfortunately, but, you know, it's...
Having played Battlesmith for a relevant amount of time, Battlesmith's a lot of fun to play, though. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, juggling between using your Steel Defender, moving up into melee, casting spells. It really delivers on having a lot of moving parts, which is cool as an Artificer.
Oh,
you do lots of stuff out of combat, and it feels like it has a lot of movement.
Let me read the excerpt. I forgot.
Oh.
Armies require protection, and someone has to put things back together if defenses fail. Combination of protector and medic, a battlesmith is an expert at defending others and repairing both material and personnel. To aid in their work, battlesmiths are usually accompanied by a steel defender, a protective companion of their own creation. Many soldiers tell stories of nearly dying before being saved by a battlesmith and a steel defender. Battlesmiths played a key role in House Canis' work on battle constructs in the original Warforged. And after the last war, these artificers led efforts to aid those who were injured in the war's horrific battles.
Yeah. They're cool, though.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this is easily...
They get cool spells. They get heroism. They get shield. They get their steel defender. I don't know. If I played an Artificer, I would play this for sure. I don't know, it feels like...
I've played an Artificer and I played this, so...
Well, okay, fair enough.
In my opinion, this is easily the most interesting, exciting Artificer, and I think it's a bit weaker than Armor, but I think it's only slightly, so I think it's kind of just... Despite me wishing that the Steel Defender and the sort of fightery parts of it were in 2 separate subclasses, or you had a way to spec in and out of the Steel Defender, so you could lean in and out, either lean into it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would open up some more fantasies. I still think this is by far the coolest, most exciting Artificer to play.
Yeah, it's cool. They get like a cool, like, paladin-y spell list as well. They're neat. I'm a fan.
I'd put him an A. I think it's just an easy A.
Yeah, I think I'll put it in A. I don't know. I like him. I don't know if we'll see later if like it feels weird in there with some other subclasses, but I like Battlesmiths. They're neat. Artillerists. Hold on.
Read the excerpt.
Yeah. I gotta read the excerpt. An artillerist specializes in using magic to hurl energy projectiles and explosions onto a battlefield. This destructive power was valued by all the armies of the last war. Now that the war is over, some members of the specialization have sought to build a more peaceful world by using their powers to fight the resurgence of the strife on Cover. The gnome artificer, Vi, an unlikely yet key member of House Canet's Warforged project, has been especially vocal about making things right. It's about time we fix things instead of blowing them all to hell. They get Fireball. They're the at level 9. So S tier class.
Yeah? Is that what you believe?
Nah, not really. They're kind of cool. They have some sauce with the protector cannon. Protector cannon's kinda nuts. But as far as like fantasy is concerned, you definitely didn't want to be an artillerist to use the protector cannon. You wanted to use like the Force Ballista and use Fireball on people, but like in
my opinion, this subclass is a mess.
It's definitely a mess.
I don't get the fantasy. You just have like a cannon. You kind of want to be a wizard, I guess, with a little cannon. But
the fantasy is you're a cannon wizard.
But then,
why not play Evocation Wizard then?
It's like it's a weird thing.
'Cause then you get Fireball like 4 levels earlier.
I played with an Artillerist who I think it was one of their first times playing D&D, and all they did was carry around the cannon, and it kind of seemed like the best way to do it. But it just doesn't seem like it's kind of it's a summon build.
The cannon can walk.
It's a summon build, but I don't know why if you're playing a summon build, you just want to be Battlesmith every time, right? Like, the summons don't feel meaningful. They don't feel interesting. What the summons can do is not interesting, or not what you'd want from a summon build.
Look, it's not really a summon. It is a summon build. Okay, actually, it is more a summon build than not, because you just go Protector Cannon, and then you be another class that can summon things.
Listen.
Like, you do animate objects or something, and then you just use your Protector Cannon on your animate objects.
That's a mess. That's nonsense.
Look, okay, I'm just saying mechanically the Protector Cannon is good, but like from a fantasy standpoint, nothing in this class works except I have a cannon that uses Fireball, and that's it. But you can't even do that till 9th level. And your cannon doesn't even use it. You use it. Your cannon uses a flamethrower.
Probably flavoring it, so you could easily flavor it so you have like a cannon or something. I was saying, the Protector Cannon is kind of supporty. Then the Force Ballista and Flamethrower sort of make you a spell slinger type character. But that's basically, both of those things are executed way better in Alchemist. Alchemist has support things. They can give you temp HP from drinking their potions. They
Yeah, from a fantasy
buff their
standpoint,
healing,
alchemy is much
and
better
they
there. For
also
sure.
have They also have features that make it where if they cast spells that deal acid, fire, necrotic, or poison damage, they get a bonus to it. So they've kind of got that already, and it makes sense. This weird thing where you create like these little cannons out of nothing, and then they exist for a bit, and then they die. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think it's very good. It's not very interesting. It's sort of stepping on the toes of two other subclasses doing it worse than they're doing it, and I don't know, bro.
Not to mention, you get a 9th level spell. Not a 9th level spell, a 9th level feature in this class that just detonates your cannon, which is your only, like, unique class thing that you have. And it does pitiful damage. And
it's
like, why would you do this?
I mean, you
do
do it if it
have
was just,
fireball. It's
if
like,
it was
oh,
just
it's
gonna die.
Yeah, but it's an action. If it's gonna die, let it die.
Oh, it isn't. Oh, I didn't. It is an action.
Like, you could cast fireball at 9th level with this class. Why would you do this? It's so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's a mess. I'd put it in. I'd probably put it in F tier.
It's mechanically very good, but yeah, no, it's a fucking mess. I would keep it in F tier as well. D tier. D tier. I think F tier is. This is the tier for if you pick the subclass, your class is worse for picking. Which I think there are a couple of those. So.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we'll see when we get to them. Not.
Also, like, I don't know. Like, as far as, like, things that work with Artificer, like, things that, like, make it a better class or more interesting, I definitely think Battlesmith is at the top, followed by Armor. Alchemist is, like, a cool idea, but doesn't really work that well, and Artillerist is a bad idea that kind of works in a janky way. But, I don't know, how do you feel about, like, Artificers?
Artificer in general?
Yeah.
I think Artificers are cool. They're interesting. They have a lot of moving parts. I think in everything they do individually, they don't stand out a lot. I think they've got a lot of. I think they get a bad rap for the same reason Rangers get a bad rap. They do a lot of things, and they're good at all the things that they do. But that's what, and I think that's. But they're. In what they do and in combat, they're not as strong as other classes. But their strength is in that they do a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Artificer should be. Honestly, they should do a lot of things. They have to work for what they do. They have very limited resources, and they gotta get what they want out of them. Like, that is what Artificer should be.
No, I agree. I mean, I think, like, the essence of it is you make, like, a funny invention, like, out of combat, and then you use it to do something. And, I mean, I think the better that that's executed, the better your class fantasy is being fulfilled. So, it's, I don't know, I think this is fair. Yeah, they're just a. I don't know. I don't really hate Artificers.
Artificer's great. I really wish Artificer had more subclasses.
But I have
think
to,
there's a
like,
lot to do with this class.
I have to be negative towards
interesting.
someone, right? Because otherwise it's like, oh, I actually like every class. And that doesn't work. So.
What do you mean that doesn't work? work.
No, that doesn't work. That's not content.
Oh, well, don't worry. I'll flame plenty of classes.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
isn't one of them, though. I like this class.
That's fair.
I'm willing to die on the Artificer Hill because I've heard complaints about it before, and I think overall this class is very fun and interesting. I do really wish it had more. I think there's a lot more to be done with this class, and
Well, my biggest
it's not
complaint
there.
is that Wizards of the Coast put it in Tasha's and then forgot that it was there. So they haven't gotten any new subclasses.
I don't know if they forgot about it. I don't know. Artificer seems to be in some weird legal limbo or something. I don't know. Every time it's brought up, Wizards is like, oh, we're not allowed to do anything with Artificer legally. And I don't know what that means.
Yeah, but
I could probably
man.
research it and find out, but I haven't cared enough to.
Just give us... At least update their spell list sometimes. Like, they've added so many new spells to the game. But I digress. Yeah, so I guess next time will be the Barbarian. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.